All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Kristen Palazzolo, and thank you for joining this webcast today, a very special webcast with our friends at Waffle.io. Today, you'll be hearing from Andrew Homeyer, who will be talking to you all today about their latest offering, and it is relating to smart and simple project management for teams in GitHub. So I want to thank Andrew for doing this today, and we're excited to learn more about this. If anyone has any questions at all during Andrew's presentation, he's going to go through some slides, and then he's also going to do a little live demo for you all here today. You can ask questions through the chat or the Q&A panel in WebEx, and we'll get to those as soon as we can. Or you can hold your question until the end of Andrew's presentation, and we will then allow you to unmute your line so that you can ask a question over the phone. All right, and we are recording this webcast today, so I'll be sending out the recording link to everyone via email, as well as the slides and information about how you can sign up to learn more about this great feature. So thank you, Andrew, so much again today, and let's go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Kristen. So my name is Andrew Homeyer. I am the founder of Waffle.io. So Kristen is from CA Technologies, and Waffle is actually a company, a business inside CA Technologies. We're part of their accelerator. So we love being part of CA, and we're talking today about Waffle. So hopefully you're joining us because maybe you've started to use Waffle in the last week or two, and you're interested in learning from me some pro tips and how even the Waffle team uses Waffle. Or maybe you don't use Waffle and you're curious what it really is. So I'll answer all those questions and give you guys a chance to ask your own questions and dig into how Waffle can help your engineering teams be more effective. So Waffle's tagline is smart and simple project management for teams in GitHub. So what that really means is that Waffle is a project management tool for engineers first. We believe that project management is broken because historically, we've always made project management tools first for project managers. And that's great, but that's sort of unfortunate when the teams actually tracking work don't get a ton of value out of it. They're told to track their work, but the real people it's made for are the project managers. What would happen if we actually turn that upside down? What if we made a tool for engineers first? So that's what Waffle is. We integrate deeply with GitHub so that we can represent the work that your team is already doing so that it really is project management for developers. So I'll just tell you a quick story. Maybe this has happened to you as well. So if tomorrow's daily stand-up, or maybe you do weekly status meetings, whatever those are, and oftentimes it's a project manager asking for status. So a project manager asks the developer, hey, did you finish issue 123 yesterday? The developer says, oh, yeah, I finished that. I just forgot to update that. Let me move it to done on the board in our tool. And the PM asks, oh, and do you think you'll be able to start 243 today? The developer responds, yeah, I think so, but there's this bug I started working on, and sorry, I didn't track it. Let me go create something to track that in the tool. But yeah, I think we can also start 234 today. So that conversation is all about updating the tool. It's sort of unfortunate that you're talking to the project manager and saying, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to update the tool. Let me log in. Let me go do that. What if the tool actually represented the work that was actually happening, whether you intentionally tracked it or not? What if the tool could actually just show you the current state of work so your status meetings or your daily stand-up can be about what's really happening and why are you blocked? Do you need help with something, as opposed to just, oh yeah, let me go update the tool. So with Waffle, you can actually see what really happens because we integrate deeply inside GitHub. So GitHub is the only platform that Waffle works on. So to use Waffle, you have to use GitHub. You can use both github.com or GitHub Enterprise. So if you're an enterprise, you need to keep your code on premises to protect your IP. That's cool. Waffle works great with GitHub Enterprise as well. So Waffle.io is our SaaS side, our cloud side. It's actually free to start using. And then you can go to enterprise.waffle.io to check out the enterprise version that works with GitHub Enterprise. So it's all about living on top of GitHub because that's where developers love to live. By starting with GitHub, with where your work lives, Waffle can just represent that in a better way to help your team stay on the same page. So one thing that's super powerful about Waffle is realizing that when your team works inside GitHub, your work lives in a lot of different places. Whether your team has adopted microservices, where you have so many different components or services in different repositories, or maybe you just have this small little UI widget that lives in a different repo. Inside GitHub, it's really hard for your team to remember where all those different pieces live, especially once you have a dozen or 24 components that a single team is responsible for. So Waffle understands that and lets you connect as many repositories as you want to a single Waffle project. We have customers who literally have over 100 different repos connected to a single Waffle project, so they can see things happening in real time across all of their work. So Waffle has 3 main components, and we'll actually jump into a live demo in a second to show this in real time, but I'll just briefly talk about them with a few screenshots first. So the main Waffle interface is a Waffle board. So as soon as you create a Waffle project, you can create a project and associate many repos to it. You have this interface. So this interface lets you connect as many columns as you want. So whatever process, whatever flow makes sense for your team, you can customize the columns to match that. So this is actually what my team's board looks like. So we have a done column on the right, so that's stuff that we finished in the last day. We have our needs review column, which during a daily stand-up, the team knows that, oh, I should be able to look at this pull request and see if somebody needs help or needs a review. And then in progress is the stuff that we're actively working on right now. And the current iteration are the things that we've committed to doing this week. So this is just what works for our team. If you look at any of the team's boards, it'll differ slightly. Some teams just have like 3 columns, like here's what's ready, here's what's in progress, here's what's done. And some teams have 20 columns because that's the flow that makes sense for them. So Waffle lets you customize that. What's really powerful is everything you see on the board exists within GitHub. So what you're looking at are GitHub issues and GitHub pull requests. And there's a label inside GitHub for every one of these columns. So your team doesn't actually have to live within Waffle to find value. They can work on this work within GitHub, and it will automatically show up in the right place inside Waffle as well for the teammates that use Waffle to see what needs to be worked on next. The next cool piece about Waffle is WaffleBot. So it's not good enough in our mind just to show you what work is happening on your team. What's awesome is that Waffle goes beyond that and can automatically update your status for you. So WaffleBot listens to the work that you do and will automatically update the status of your work for you. So for example, if you open up a pull request, Waffle will automatically put that in your needs review column or your in progress column. If you merge a pull request, WaffleBot will move that to done for you and show that it's closed. So WaffleBot is working behind the scenes. You actually see it in the history on your pull request and in your issues that WaffleBot is actually updating labels and updating status for you as you do work so that your team is always on the same page. The last piece about Waffle is something that we've launched in the last 2 weeks. Waffle Metrics is our new feature to enable the organizer on your team to stay on track. So Waffle is great for teams to automatically track what work is happening. Waffle Metrics gives you that high-level overview to know, are we on track? Are we on time? When will this be finished? So those key questions that we need to answer for project managers or the organizer in your team, Waffle Metrics helps you do that. So Waffle Metrics comes with 2 pieces, a milestone burn down and also a throughput graph. And we'll jump into a live demo to talk about that. So after the live demo, I'll give you guys a chance to ask questions that I can then answer, but we'll jump into a live demo real quick first. All right, great. So this is my team's board. Let me collapse a few columns. So in progress, you actually see a card that represents this webinar, actually. So I am actively doing this webinar, and I move this card to in progress. So to show you how Waffle works, I'll use this card as the example. So we have many columns. To edit your columns, you can head over to Settings, and then go to Columns. So our team has a lot of columns because we actually have a public backlog. So you can go to waffle.io and you can find our board to actually see what we're doing in real time if you're ever curious. So because of that, we have an inbox and we have a pending column that just helps us organize the work for incoming requests. So most teams would have fewer columns than we do. But this is where you would go to actually customize those columns. Under project settings, you can also go to sources. You can add all of the different GitHub repositories, both from github.com or GitHub Enterprise, so you can show all your work on one place. So you can see that the Waffle team actually has 30 or so different repositories where our work lives. So that's just how Waffle is configured for our team. So going back to our board interface, and we'll give it a second to load. We have our in progress, our news review, and our done column. So let's say that I actually have some code to go along with this webinar, and it's in a different repository. So jump over to a repo called public demo. It's one of those mini repos that are connected to that board. So to show you how WaffleBot works, to show you how we automatically update status for you, let me go create a pull request. So I'll go and I'll do some code changes. Let's just delete that line. And then I'll create a new branch. So it's awesome, and this is an optional step, but I know that this issue is 913 in Biz. So let's say that I have some work in progress. I'm just going to push it to a branch. If I name that branch by the issue number, it will automatically move that card to in progress. Because we're cross repos, this is a public demo repo, and I'm trying to touch a card that actually lives in a different repo, I have to use the full reference. So the org name slash the repo name and then pound the number. If this was just in the same repo, you can just name the branch 913 and that would work. So let me create that. You'll see that in a second, Waffle will see that we created that branch name and it will move it to in progress. So it was already in progress, so it's not going to move it anywhere. But if that card was anywhere else on your board, it would move it to in progress for you. So the next step is let's actually create a pull request. So I'm just going to mention that this closes that issue. And I'll create a pull request. So that pull request is now opened. You'll see that this card is going to move to needs review, and then that pull request is associated to it. So this is super powerful in Waffle that as your developers do work, they can do their work on a branch, and then whenever they open a pull request, that pull request will show up in needs review, and then your teammates know automatically that they need to act on it. They need to give it a review or approve it. You don't have to associate pull requests to issues. It's just a nice layer on top of Waffle where you can associate many different pull requests to an issue if you have many pieces of work. So for example, in our in progress column, issue 2550 is upgrading Node.js for a bunch of our different services. You can see that we actually already have 4 different pull requests open, and this is still in progress. So this is a great way just to keep track of all the different pieces of work that might be across different repositories that your team is working on. And then let's go back to our pull request. And as soon as I merge this pull request, we'll see that both the pull request and the issue are then moved to done. So this is how our team works. We rely on WaffleBot to automatically update our status so that our team always stays on track. We always know what's going on. We don't have to remember during a stand-up to move something to finish because the tool is deeply tied to the work that you're already doing within GitHub. So that is the board and also how WaffleBot works. Let's go to metrics to see what metrics gives us. So the first cool thing about metrics is our throughput. So by default, it'll show you the last couple of weeks, your throughput. Within Waffle, you can also estimate work. So on the board, you can actually give sizes to your work. You don't have to, but we think it's a great way to help your team become more predictable. So if you start doing that, the throughput graph can be ordered by size or just by number of issues and pull requests. So we'll use size since my team is estimating work. We can see that every week we're averaging 15 or so points. What's cool is we can actually go back in history and let's go back to January and let's see if that's true, if we're actually that consistent over the last almost year. So you can see that we have a lot of spikes. Some weeks we get a lot more done, but yeah, we probably average around 15 points a week. Then we can change this to be, maybe we don't want to look at weeks. Let's look at whether we're consistent month over month. Awesome, so looking at issues, ordering by size, we can actually see that, yeah, the team gets done about 50, maybe 60 points every month. So this is really, really great for me wearing my organizer hat. I can see that my team is predictable so that as I start to figure out when something in the future will be finished, I know about how many points my team can get done every week or every month. One little Easter egg is if you just look at pull requests, maybe just the count of pull requests, since the Waffle team does continuous delivery, so every single pull request we work on is going to be deployed to production, this actually shows you how often we're doing deployments as well. So, so nice little trick is to look at pull requests, your throughput for closing pull requests will actually tell you how often you're deploying code as well. All right, so we know our throughput. That's awesome. How does that actually help us impact the future? So this is where looking at milestones really helps. So you can assign issues to milestones to organize your work. Some teams use milestones to organize work into features like we do at Waffle, or some teams use milestones to represent sprints. So every milestone is finished every 2 weeks. So whichever way you use it, you can use a milestone burn down to see how well you are working down towards achieving your goal. So my team right now is working on our metrics post-launch milestone. We said that we would be finished mid-December, and this is just feedback that we've heard since launching metrics. You can see that it actually looks like we're almost on track. So this purple line shows us what the ideal would be. So if we were really on track, we want the blue bar to be at or below the purple line. So we're a little bit above it, but it's pretty close, so I'm not too worried about it. We might go over the due date by a couple of days, or I could go look to see what's inside this milestone and maybe change the scope of a few things, maybe take an issue or two out for us to be able to actually hit that date. So that's a decision for me as a project manager to make, but this gives me the data I need to be able to make an informed decision to inform my stakeholders or my customers to know when something will be finished. Awesome. So those are the core features of Waffle: the board, WaffleBot to automatically update your status, and now Waffle Metrics to help keep your team on track. So next we're going to jump into a few best practices, so patterns that we've seen other teams adopt that help them use Waffle and other things in the GitHub ecosystem more effectively. Before we do that, I'd love to answer some questions. So let me jump real quick to see if there are any questions in
I don't see any at this time. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat window or the Q&A panel. You can also unmute your line by pressing #6 or *6. If you're connected to the audio broadcast, you can click on the phone with a question mark icon, and that will notify me that you have a question, and I can allow you to speak over your audio on your computer.
I've got a question.
Great.
Go ahead.
This is Matthew Ruck. Could you go back to that last, the milestone one you were showing?
Yes. Do you see that?
Yeah, it just came up. So where you say metrics post-launch, so that's like a project, and each one of these dots represent an action or a task in that project?
Right. So
is that right?
metrics. Yep. So metrics post-launch is a milestone within GitHub. Let me go back. Let me open the board interface in a different tab real quick. So each dot represents something being done. So we started with 26 points on size, so 34 points, or if I looked at, choose to look at it by count, so I see that there are 26 issues in this milestone. On November 29th, let's see, 3 of those issues were then closed. So this is showing that we started at 26, on the 29th, 3 things were finished, and then on the 30th, 3 more things were finished. On December 1st, 1 thing was finished, and so on and so forth. So this is showing you that every drop in a step is showing you that you completed a piece of work. So the top of the graph is your total amount of work to be done, and then it's called a burn down because you're finishing work as you go, and your target is to, by the end of the purple line, have everything finished.
Okay, so my question is, when I look at that view, I guess in Waffle, where you see the columns, right? And I would see some issues are in work, some are in review, or various spots. Are those all linked somehow under that milestone?
Yep, so if you filter your board by the milestone, let's go to metrics post-launch. That's how you can see all the work that's left. So we archive our done column every day after our daily stand-up, so you don't see all the work that's been finished. But you can see that we have, uncollapsed, so we have 5 things left that we said was in that milestone for us to be able to finish off that, that milestone to have it burn all the way down.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. That's a great feature.
Cool, thanks. We think so too. Awesome. Okay. Any other questions before we move on?
That's all I have right now.
All right, great. So jumping into a few best practices. This is beyond just the Waffle product. So this is practices that we see teams adopt that help them move faster. And by adopting these features or by adopting these practices, Waffle becomes more effective on your team. So the first one, this is really hard to do if you're not already doing it, but you can start to take steps towards it. So Waffle works best when you have a team tied to a repo or a team tied to many repos. It doesn't work very well if you have a bunch of teams working on one repo, just because you have so many people trying to use a single Waffle interface to track their work and just gets super cluttered. So it's great to adopt practices like microservices or components that are in different repositories, and we call that repo-driven development. So the core artifact is that everything's wrapped up in a repo. Waffle works super well because you can tie all those repos to a single board. What's great is we often partner with other tools in the GitHub ecosystem. So using GitHub and Waffle also makes sense to adopt a tool for continuous integration and continuous delivery. We use CircleCI. We've also used CodeShip and Travis CI for stuff. Either one of those tools are really great for a lightweight way to run tests and do deployments. And those things are super easy to adopt if you have adopted repo-driven development. So a single repo, you can run tests against them. You can do builds. You can do deployments independent of other components on your stack. So this is almost like a precursor to be able to really use Waffle effectively. If you're not here yet, it's a great goal to have to figure out how you can break up a large code base into small repos. That said, there is a caveat that large companies like Google and Facebook, they've adopted a mono repo methodology that works super well for them, but they have custom-built tooling to make that effective. So you can do it, especially at scale. It actually, you can move a lot faster with one repo, but you have to have better building and testing and deployment mechanisms that can work in that big repo scenario. So Waffle is meant for the opposite, that you have small repos with a team working on many repos. The second best practice is to use pull requests. So if you're on GitHub, you're probably already doing this, but you don't have to. We recommend that you use pull requests just to encourage the collaboration on your team. So any change you do, whether it's just like a documentation change even, if it's just changing a README, open a pull request just so that you give people in your team an opportunity to give feedback on it. What's great about this too is any pull request will always show up within Waffle. You can connect PRs to issues like I showed in the demo, but you don't have to. So anytime you open a pull request, just open it and it'll show up within Waffle in your in progress or your review column. You can configure where those PRs go in your column settings inside Waffle as well. So pull requests are super impactful just to encourage collaboration, and it makes Waffle much better too. This is a screenshot from the site GitHub. So if you're using any tool like continuous integration and delivery or code coverage or trying to think of a few other examples, but there's a lot of tools in the GitHub ecosystem that integrate directly with GitHub status checks. So this is looking at a pull request. You can see that CircleCI automatically ran tests for us, and it gave us the thumbs up to say that this is safe to merge. By adopting continuous integration, you get feedback pretty quickly if something was broken, and continuous delivery helps you work in smaller increments. So if you're able to deploy every change, whether that's every day or once a week, the smallest increment that you can deploy is usually the best one, because you know if something broke, what changed. You can get confident over time that the small changes you're deploying are safe. It does require thinking about launches a little differently. So happy to talk more about patterns around adopting continuous delivery if you haven't yet, about how to separate out like code deploys from marketing deploys, and also about just practice with your team around ownership of deployments and stuff like that. But totally adopt continuous integration and delivery if you can. It's super powerful to work on those smaller increments. The last one is part of what I showed during the demo is with waffle metrics, you can become more predictable. So throughput is a great way to see what you're capable of, whether it's just looking at the count of stuff you're getting done, like number of issues, number of pull requests. Over time, you can also get better at estimating your work and using size. So if you do this effectively, we think it's really powerful to be able to predict what you can do in the future. So looking at this, you can see that we finish 25 points or so every 2 weeks. And then we can apply that to our burn down graph to say, all right, we have 10 points left in about 4 days. Yeah, we can probably hit that, but it's sort of at risk. So yeah, because we're above that purple line. So I'll go talk to my team, figure out if we're on track or not, and maybe remove some things from that milestone to make sure that we hit that date. So using these two graphs can help you predict when you'll be done, and is really important for teams once you start scaling your team to be more than just a couple people. So those are the 4 best practices that we encourage you to do. So use repo-driven development, so many repositories, adopt continuous integration and continuous delivery, use metrics, and use pull requests. So to wrap up our WebEx, I want to just show you that Waffle is used by tens of thousands of teams across the globe. We're trusted by some great enterprises as well. We're not just North America, we're used by teams everywhere, really. We're in thousands of cities. It's really cool to see Waffle grow like this. So hopefully some of you on the call are actually from some of these places, not just North America. But thank you so much for joining. If you want to get started with Waffle, it's free on waffle.io to start with for github.com, and then just $5 per user per month for metrics. And if you are an enterprise and you're using GitHub Enterprise, you can head to enterprise.waffle.io to see how you can install Waffle Takeout. So one-line command to install Waffle to work with GitHub Enterprise, and then we give you a 45-day free trial as well. So super easy to get started, and we're always here to answer questions. You can ask them now or just email support@waffle.io at any time, and we'll get back to you. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can ask them in the Q&A panel or the chat window. Or again, you can unmute your line by pressing #6 or *6, or raise your hand by clicking on the question mark icon, and I can unmute your line for you. I'm also going to send out all the links that Andrew just mentioned to everyone who attended this webcast today. So if you didn't get those down, don't worry. I will get those over to you in email as soon as possible. And I also am opening a poll so that you can rate this webcast today and let us know what you thought. All right, let's see if there's any questions. Don't see any questions yet, but I do see people responding to the poll, so thank you very much for that. Positive feedback, Andrew, don't worry.
If you found this talk useful and you would love for other teammates to hear it, we're considering running more of these, so feel free to reach out at support@waffle.io if you'd be interested in doing more of these.
Or you can respond directly to the follow-up email that I send out from this webcast, and I'll make sure that gets over to Andrew and his team. No more questions.
All right, great. Well, thank you everyone for attending. We're excited to see you guys at Waffle.
Oh, we have a question. Can you elaborate more on the pull requests?
Yeah, I would love to. All right, so at a high level, a pull request is a way for people to make changes. So I'll just show this within GitHub, actually. So if you have a repository on GitHub, this is where your code will live. Whenever you make a change, so you just go edit one of these files. You could do this on your computer in your editor, and you can also do it within GitHub. So making changes. Whenever you're done, you have two options with your changes. You can create a commit and put it onto the master branch. So that's the default branch. That's like the main place your code lives. Or you can create a branch. So by creating a branch, it's separate from where the code lives, and then you can keep on making your changes, and eventually you can merge that branch back into master. Great. So we just made our change, and it's on this branch called Homewire patch 3. So we can keep on making changes. Maybe we want to make more commits. So let's go make another commit, making changes. Again, then I'll go update that same branch. So this is usually how developers work. They'll be making changes. They can keep it all on their computer, or they can be making these changes and committing them to a branch and then pushing it up to GitHub. So it's pretty common to see a branch that has multiple commits. And once that branch is ready, so you've made all your changes, you've written your test, then you have this option to create a pull request. So pull request is a GitHub specific thing. So if you're just using Git and not GitHub, you can't use pull requests. You'll just be creating branches and then merging those branches back into master. But inside GitHub, you can take those changes that are in the branch and create a pull request. So updated demo file, and then create a pull request. So what's cool about this guy is this gives everyone on your team an opportunity to see what you did. So someone can say, like, looks good, leave a comment. They can ask a question. They can also see all the commits I did. So I updated the file 2 times. They can also go see all the different files I changed. And they can say, like hey, can you add a period? What's cool about a pull request too is you can start a review. So this review says that I'm asking for changes. And before I can go finish this pull request, I should go and I should review these changes. So this is really great when anytime that you're making code changes, your team can actually jump in and give you feedback. And it's a clear way for you to know all the things you need to address, whether it's a change or just saying, hey, I did it this way for this reason. And they'll say, cool, that sounds good. And then whenever you're finished, you can comment or you can approve it. And since I left the feedback, let's just cancel the review. But ideally, someone would go through and eventually approve it. Since I was the author, I can't actually approve it myself, so someone else on the team would actually have to go do that. So I'll just cancel this review. And then once we're actually finished, we can click merge. So what's great though is this should be showing up on Waffle in real time. So this pull request is created, and then looking at Waffle, we'll see, let's see. So this showed up in the inbox. So within real time in Waffle, it'll show you that things are happening. So you don't have to remember to like create a card within Waffle. Waffle is real time, showing you all the pull requests that are happening on your team. Once you're finished, you can merge that. And then that actually, by merging it, is putting it into your master branch. So it's just like creating a branch and then merging it back into master. except the cool thing is you're giving your team the opportunity to leave feedback, review it, run tests against it, all those different steps. So pull request is this layer of collaboration that you're adding on the normal way that your team will work. Hopefully that answered your question, and happy to dig more into it if you'd like as well.
Thanks, Andrew. We have another question that came in. Can we integrate Waffle with any other data sources or just GitHub?
Yeah, so Waffle today only works with GitHub. We've considered integrating with GitLab and Bitbucket, but it's not on our roadmap currently. I would be curious to hear what data source in particular you're thinking of, but right now we're just integrating with GitHub. If you don't use GitHub, we're happy to make an introduction to GitHub to help you adopt that as well if you'd be interested in running a pilot of GitHub and Waffle together.
He said that he was thinking of SQL Server.
Oh, interesting. No, we've actually never.
Or Oracle Server.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's definitely not on our roadmap, but that is interesting. Waffle today only works on top of GitHub, and I think for a little while that's what we'll be focused on.
All right. Any other questions at this time? I don't see any more in the chat or the Q&A window. Again, you can unmute your line by pressing #6 or *6. Okay, if that's it, we'll go ahead and close this webcast up. I want to thank Andrew for his time today. If you think of any other questions, feel free to email support@waffle.io, or you can respond to my follow-up email later today. All right, I hope everyone has a great rest of your week and a great holiday season.
Thanks, Kristen. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.